Okay. You are the winner of the MLK 2020 essay contest for your elementary school division. How do you feel, Colette?
I'm really proud of myself. I'm really excited. I'm really excited and really proud of myself.
Yeah. Was it hard to write the essay?
Yeah, it took me about a week.
You stuck to it and then you turned out to be the first place winner.
Yeah, I was super surprised. I didn't even know what the 2020 census was at first. And then I learned everything, so yeah.
Well, can you give any advice to anybody else in your grade that might want to be a winner? Can you give any advice to them about how to become a winner?
Well, you have to really work hard. It has to, you have to make it so that it makes sense and it's clear. So to fit the audience so that they understand what you're writing, and they can relate to it. Yeah.
Well, that's great news. That's great advice. Oh my goodness, I love it. I love it. What grade are you in?
I'm in 6th grade.
Okay, 6th grade. Are you looking forward to continuing doing more good writing in this way?
Yeah.
Well, I'm filming the part of the show called The People Have Spoken, so we have to say that together on the count of 3. Okay, on 3, we'll say it together. 1, 2, 3.
The people have spoken!
On Total Sunshine. Good job, Colette. You're a winner. She's number 1. All righty. Thank you, honey. Enjoy.
The 2020 census. Why it is important as a citizen, child, and student. The United States 2020 census will take place in April of 2020. The census takes place every 10 years. The U.S. takes this census by calculating everybody who lives in the country. They do this because they need to see if locations in the U.S. are underfunded or overfunded, in order to make sure each area has enough financing. The 2020 census will also ensure that each state has the right amount of congressional representatives. Representatives are important to each state because they pass laws. I see a direct link between the 2020 census and Dr. Martin Luther King's ideas about equality and unity. The 2020 census will help secure an equal amount of funding in public facilities to ensure that citizens as well as future citizens all are able to have equal access to education, healthcare, transportation, and other necessities. The 2020 census will help everybody in the U.S. have accessibility to fundamental opportunities. The 2020 census is important to D.C. because the census results in the provision of around $6 billion to D.C. for Medicaid, schools, food assistance, and dozens of other fundamental needs. That means after the census takes place, D.C. will get a better amount of funding for all public facilities that almost everyone living in D.C. use and require. Currently, there are about 1,000 additional people a month coming to D.C., which is mostly from birth and migration. In 2017 and 2018, D.C. was the 6th most populous region in the country. In order for there to be an accurate amount of funding, the Census Bureau must get an accurate count of all the people living in D.C., and this is why the census is important to D.C. The 2020 census is important to me because living in D.C., I am not only a citizen, but also a student and a child. Being a student in D.C., I have dealt with funded and underfunded schools. However, there should not be underfunded schools. Everyone should have equal access to schools that have an equal amount of funding. This can only take place if the government can see the amount of children in D.C. and fund schools that need things like computers, textbooks, or simply a library. I recently went to a school that I had to transfer out of because there was not enough opportunity to learn. There was no public library, there were 2 computer carts, and some days we 6th graders could not take our tests because 7th grade had testing. Schools like this need the same amount of funding that wealthier schools have. All schools should have equal amount of funding. Being a child, I do have health care, thanks to my parents who have health insurance. I can go to urgent care and I can go to the emergency room. There are some hospitals that will care for people without insurance. However, these hospitals depend on federal funding, so that people who cannot have health insurance can be taken care of. The 2020 census is important to me not only as a citizen, but as a student and as a child. This is because being able to go to a good school and having access to a good doctor and hospital is important to me. In conclusion, I often see Martin Luther King's vision in D.C., but I think people in D.C. could do better at noticing the unfairness in most D.C. public facilities. I believe that if everyone participates in the 2020 census, the amount of funding would have a very positive and sustained effect on the district.